This is a public service announcement. If you are an expert on 5G technology, this documentary is not for you. This documentary is to inform people of what 5G technology truly is and the dangers that are presented towards any living organism, whether that is human, animal, or plant life. Despite what Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, or T-Mobile tells the public, it is incorrect and it is a facade to cover the dangers that this technology brings. This documentary was made not to stop the technology because there's nothing that we can do, but it's so that you know how to protect yourself, your family, your friends, your neighbors, and anybody else that you hold dear and near to your heart.
Have anybody addressed the issue of small cell 5G units that are going to be placed every 2 to 10 houses throughout the United States? That's including here because we are in the United States. And the actual technology, everybody likes the 5G. And in case you don't know what that is, that's like 4G on steroids, and my colleague is going to talk about that because there's health implications with that. And that's going to cause a big influx with people getting sick. I remember you said there's not that many people who are working now. We have less people working. Well, you're going to have even more less. You're going to have less people working. Because this technology, although as great as they say it is, it comes with some health implications. Not only that, these small cell towers that they put on property can cause your property value to go down. Okay? So I'm a little concerned about how you guys are addressing this because nobody is talking about this. Seems like the only county that is talking about this is Montgomery County. Baltimore County, I don't know whether you're sick or asleep or whatever the case may be, but somebody's not.
I am sick, so.
I've seen you yawning a few times. I don't know whether you were bored or the nightclub crack was kicking in or whatever, but the truth of the matter is that this has got to be taken care of. This has got to be taken care of. This is an issue that nobody is putting on the table, and it affects everybody. You're talking about upgrading the schools and the infrastructure. Well, that includes the technology, that includes the 5G. So now kids are being inundated and radiated, not only at school, but now they're coming home and getting radiated as well. More so than we are now. What are you doing about that?
Just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the new technology of communication that you referred to earlier. I take it that these new schools and upgrades to these schools will have 5G part of the budget, hopefully, I would believe. Is the public aware of the implications of these new towers? Is there any kind of information that's being given to the public in referencing to it? Because that's the biggest question that everyone has. When it comes to just knowing about 5G in general, we only know just the basic general when it comes to getting better coverage. It's also been explained that how it will broaden the coverage of the 911 program, which is also greatly needed, but at what cost? Just a little bit background on 5G technology. These cell towers are more dangerous than other cell towers for two main reasons. First, compared to earlier versions, 5G is ultra high frequency and ultra high intensity. The 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G uses between 1 to 5 gigahertz, while 5G uses 24 to 90 gigahertz. Within the RF radiation portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, the higher the frequency, the more dangerous to living organisms. There have been hundreds of peer-reviewed scientific studies and independent health studies done on RF radiation, linking the health problems such as cancer, DNA damage, and especially in fetuses within the first 100 days of conception, the sterilization of men, and even the World Health Organization classified RF radiation as a possible carcinogenic, meaning cancer-causing, in 2011. What is being done to make sure our families are safe? Why isn't there any information issued to the public from the state of Maryland who have these health concerns which will affect their community? And when does money, technology, and infrastructure become more important than the safety of our children?
Genesis 11:3-4. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city, and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
Since the beginning of time, man has always wanted to communicate with God. After all, God did communicate with man in the very beginning, starting with Adam. But look where we are today. We've gone through so many changes when it comes down to communication. We've went from drawing on rocks and sticks and bones and tablets and stone to now communicating through more modern technologies, whether that was the first time we communicated with mirrors. Roman Emperor Tiberius did that, where he communicated with using the sun to reflect the sunlight by mirrors to communicate with ships or with whatever he was communicating with. Then we got into Ferdinand Magellan, he's using flags and firing cannons. If you notice, there's a trend, and I'm going to get into that. Then we went into like the telegraph, and then we went into landlines, and then we went into photograph. And for those who don't know what that is, that's records, where we are recording voices and tones. Then we get into the radio and the television. All of this is a way for man to communicate to each other in mass quantities, just like God can communicate to everybody in mass quantities. Remember, Satan said he wants to be like God, and he's found a way so that he can communicate using the technologies out here in mass quantities. And I've only just stopped at the phonograph, and I stopped at radio. So let's just keep going. So we have, and then you're looking at faxes and mobile phones and things of that nature. And, you went from cellular phones to GSMs to all the way up to where we are now with computers and the internet. So now here we are doing the computer and the internet. This is a whole new thing. Went from just having a system out. The first email went out. The next thing you know, we got the 8-inch floppy drive. And then the next thing you know, we have the World Wide Web, which was, by the way, at CERN in the very beginning. And then we get into all of these programs like, WordPerfect, Lotus, and all of that. And now we're here where we're doing more social networking, Skype, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We got the iPhone stuff that's going on, WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. We have the ability to communicate with anybody in the world using this method. So how do you control everything at one time where everybody's getting the same message with no time delay at one time as like with God? Because God can give everybody in this world a message at one time. And the way that you do it is by this thing right here. This is more than just cell phone service. This is more than just whatever you think it is, being able to be covered. This is about connectivity, and this is a weapon, and we'll get into that. This is a frequency that is very demonic because light is frequency, okay? Understand that. Sound is frequency, okay? So because of that, because light and sound has a frequency, they've combined this thing and put it in that thing right there. Guys, this is serious. I pray that you will have the understanding. I pray that God will give you the ears to hear what we're going to present in this documentary, that he will give you a mind of understanding, and he gives you the mind to research it for yourself. And I pray that he gives you eyes to see what we're going to present to you. And even after you're done looking at this documentary, that you can go outside your home or when you go to work or the store, wherever you go, that you'll start paying attention to these things. Because believe it or not, they're everywhere, and everybody will be connected in 2020. By the end of 2020, everybody will be connected, and there will be nowhere to run and nowhere to hide.
Second Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
Let's talk about frequency. What exactly is frequency? Can't see it, can't smell it, but it's all around us. God made everything that we see here. And everything that we see here is driven by a frequency. God said, let there be light, and light appeared. Light's frequency. What we hear is frequency. What we feel is frequency. That thing over there will be able to manipulate frequency. It will be able to manipulate frequencies on levels that will affect every living creature on this planet. And it could be detrimental to all of this planet's health.
You know, it's really an interesting story, moving from Atlanta out to Missouri and just overwhelmed with the situation, excited to be in a new house and hit the ground running with my new job. So I wasn't really thinking about a lot of the side stories of what was going on surrounding me. And I noticed for some time I would be sitting in bed at night and reading my Bible, reading an article online, and I would get these, it was almost like a wave came over like a wave would go over my face, and then my body would respond to it, and all of a sudden I'd have this ringing in my ear, and it was so bad it took over my entire body to where like I felt weighed down, almost like I was under warm water. And I just wrote it off as possibly some issues with my inner ear from some prior scenarios that I dealt with, but it was different. And it began to happen more frequently, generally at nighttime when I was in my bedroom. A couple times I was in my bathroom and it was worse. It happened to me reading in my bathroom, sitting in my chair in the bathroom area. And so I didn't really understand what was going on. I didn't understand why I would have a hard time sleeping. I was literally, back in Atlanta, I would maybe fight to stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning. Like I'd have to fight for that. But here in this house, I would just lay in bed sometimes until 3:30, 4 in the morning, and I would have to take melatonin just to go to sleep. And this is totally out of my normal pattern. So I didn't really understand some of these scenarios that were coming upon me in this house. But then shortly after, I guess about a year after dealing with all of this on a pretty regular basis, my brother came to me and said, we have a smart meter outside of our house. And not only is it outside of our house, it's on the wall that's closest to my bathroom and bedroom and Wes's bedroom. His situation was worse than mine because the smart meter was right there by where his head is on his bed. So obviously he dealt with a different level of effect than what I had. But I was dealing with I had been dealing with these things for the entire year that we'd been here. Had no idea what it was. Tried to chalk it up to stress, chalk it up to, adrenal glands being shot, whatever. You tend to look at all of the popular views of why people have these symptoms, and I never stopped to think that it had to do with EMF and this smart meter. The story about the smart meter is strange because we reached out to the power company, and the first thing they did was said, no, you guys don't have a smart meter. We don't have smart meters, and it kind of threw a curveball at us. We're like, okay, well this is weird. But we did a little digging, and they have a loophole apparently where they don't call it a smart meter if it's a one-way device. What that means is that somebody has to come out and they have to ping your box. It's like they've got a little remote control device that can ping your meter. That's not considered a smart meter because it's not sending signals to their location or their headquarters. So they have a loophole. And I think this is important for people to consider, that they're going to be told that you can opt out of smart meters, but they've already got the loophole to where you're still going to have a smart meter, but they don't call it a smart meter because it's one way. Now, you're still going to have to pay an extra fee, we found out, because somebody still has to come out and they have to ping your box. But I found this really interesting that they've already got this loophole in position for the big merge that's coming, sometime in the next year or so. We don't know exactly when, depending on your state and your counties that you live in. But some places are going to go all smart meters, and then some states are going to give you an opt-out policy. Now, we have an opt-out here in Missouri. We're allowed to opt out. However, they've already safeguarded themselves by creating the smart meter that's not registered as a smart meter. The story gets a little heavier when we start looking at the amount of EMF that was being transmitted through our house. And I'm sure Wes is going to talk about this a little bit because he ordered a reader. He ordered one of these devices because he knew that something was going on. And again, we've suffered for a year with this, not knowing what it was until recently. It was very interesting when we asked them what our options were, because we knew that we had a smart meter. They're denying it, but they said our options were pretty much to deal with it or to go to another power supplier, another means of electricity. And there's only 2 companies that service our area, and for most people in America, a lot of places only offer one option. And so we called the other power company, and they told us that they only do smart meters. So that was kind of interesting. So we called back and we talked to the lady at our power company again. There was a lot of back and forth here, and she basically said that they would reach out to they have a meter warehouse, and they would reach out and see if there was any other options, but she didn't think there were. And so while she was doing her homework, we looked online and found that you can buy analog meters online for like $30. So we were like, hey, why don't we just buy an analog meter and then have their guy come out and hook it up? Because it's a federal crime apparently, or some type of a crime. I don't know what degree it is, but it's a pretty big crime if you try to change the meters out yourselves, because there's going to be a lapse in your electricity reading, and that's basically their cash register. And so we found out that it's illegal to try to change out your meter yourself. So we didn't really have a lot of options. And then finally, after a couple of days of just being disgruntled, and I can't even begin to tell you the emotions that were going through our house at the time, we're basically told that you're going to just have to deal with these things. You're just going to have to be radiated and poisoned without any options. And so we started to pray about it and look into some ideas and options. And I guess it was a few days later that we came up with this idea. Why don't we just have them come out and move their box as far away from our house as they can, with it still being on our property? So we called them, and it was not easy. We had to request a call back from their service people. They finally come through, and they said, we're gonna have to send somebody out to look at the area. So he comes out, really nice guy, a little surprised that we wanted our box moved. It's almost like you're the crazy guys in the town who believe in aliens. You really think your box is causing EMF. It was unbelievable. But he was nice, but you could see it in his eyes. He thought it was silly that we wanted our box moved. And so I'm not even going to stretch this out. Let me just get right to the point. He said that yes, they can move it, but basically we're looking at a process of having to get the work done, having to get cables run by another electrician. We have to actually have an electrician run the cables, and then we have to pay them for the mount and the box and everything else. And then we have to pay for the city to come out and inspect it and approve it before they can move the box. And the whole ordeal is going to cost about $1,000. The whole scenario was unbelievable. And what's crazy is that it's almost like you're living a certain way and just accepting the fact that there's something wrong with you and you don't know what it is. Why am I stressed out all the time? Why can't I sleep at night? Why are my ears ringing? Why am I feeling like I'm moving in slow motion? All of these things are adding up, and you're just like, I guess I'm just gonna have to live with this. And then you find out that there's a culprit behind it all. You find out that there is a demonic box that is fusing together different types of alchemy right there on your house, and it's transmitting these cancerous, dangerous waves all the way through your house from one end to the other. And then you start to find out that if you have metal fillings and you have any heavy metals in your system from foods and from other life events, where you've got heavy metals built up in your body, that you're actually, it's like steroids to the EMF. It's causing all of these things to boil up over, like a boiling pot of water, just boiling up over onto the stove. And what can you do about it? They're trying to make it so hard to where you absolutely can't do anything about it unless you have good means to do something financially. And unfortunately, we were not in a place to have the box moved. And this is all really fresh. This is all really new. This is all going on right now, and we're trying to come up with a plan to get the box moved. But $1,000 is just it's outside of our budget right now. But they literally want you to just lay down and take whatever they tell you is good for you. And what's really crazy is it's all compartmentalized. The people that work for these companies, they're going home and they're laying down in their beds and they're getting EMF from the same boxes that we are. You know, and the easy solution is go to the doctor and get put on drugs, get put on medicine, get put on all types of this pharmakia so that you mask the problems while you're basically enduring a slow kill. So, and then not to mention you've got your wireless routers and everything's wireless in your house and your Bluetooth and just all of this technology that is working together to create a cancerous mesh over your life. And most people don't even realize that all these symptoms that they're having are symptoms of the EMF and the radiation that's coming through. Well, we have gotten on selenium, a very concentrated form of selenium. It's a liquid form, and it's 200 micrograms per serving. You just take 6 drops in the morning. We're doing the selenium every day. We're doing colloidal nascent iodine in our water every morning. We've also started a chlorella detox using a chlorella. It's a 50-50 chlorella spirulina, if that's how you say it. But it's basically these super greens, these algae that they've put together into these capsules, and we're taking the full dose of that every day. And it's a lot, you know, it's a lot, but we're really trying to take all the steps we possibly can to reverse the effects of the EMF and anything else that's possibly getting through on this. But we are definitely going to be moving forward to having this box moved. That is definite. We just don't know when we're going to be able to do it. But on another note, I wanted to mention something about 5G and a personal story we had. A lot of people don't realize this is all tying in together. You're dealing with 5G technology, you're dealing with 4G technology. I mean, it's all dangerous. The first cell phones weren't even 3G, and they were dangerous. People forget that the government has spent millions and millions and millions of dollars researching the effects of cell phone radiation early on. Like, we're talking about years ago. And here we are now, you know, running 4G and in some places 5G. We're so much further advanced than we were in those days that the 25 some plus $1 million the government invested in this research. And then, by the way, the government just covered it all up. They covered it up and didn't release it publicly. It started to leak. And as it began to leak, some of the news companies picked it up, and there was some mainstream news coverage of this with Dr. Nick Begich saying, why? Why are you covering this information up? You paid us millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to research the health effects and the safety effects of cell phone radiation, and now you're covering it all up because it would just crush our economy in America if we didn't have cellular service. Right. Now, we're driving, working on our latest film, and we're driving through Kansas City, Missouri. I look down on my phone, and all of a sudden, my phone has a big 5G on it. Now, I freaked out. I'd never seen this before. I was not aware that my service provider was forcing 5G in certain cities. I had no clue. And so I'm kind of freaking out. I'm telling Wes and Chad and Darren in the car, I'm like, guys, my phone is saying 5G. Look at this. I went ahead and took a screenshot of it because I'd never seen anything like that before. I didn't realize that they were forcing it on you. There was no opting out. It was a matter of you are now in 5G territory, whether you want it or not, whether your phone can accept it or not. Your body is going to soak it all up as you drive through our town. When I saw the 5G, I went right in and I put it on airplane mode. Like there was no delay. And then after about 5 or 10 minutes, my paranoia just continued to drive in my mind. So I just took my phone back out and turned it off completely. I was like, I ain't even doing airplane mode. I'm just gonna turn it off. Well, there is hope. There is hope because we know that as Christians, we know that if someone, there's a number of passages in Scripture that gets into the idea that we are protected. God puts a hedge of protection around His obedient children. Let me put it like that. God protects His obedient children. However, we're not supposed to run out into dangerous situations knowingly. We're not supposed to go put ourselves in situations that are going to tempt the Lord our God. And
Right.
when we get to that point where, we pray and ask the Lord to bless every meal we eat. We pray that the Lord would remove anything harmful from our food. We pray that with faith every time we sit down to break bread. And it doesn't matter if it's morning, noon, night. It doesn't matter if it's a snack. We pray that the Lord would protect us and put that hedge around us and keep us safe from the attacks of the enemy. Because at the end of the day, this is all part of Satan's plan. His plan is to, steal, kill, and destroy. And that's exactly what 5G and EMF is doing. It is stealing your life from you, it is killing you, and it is destroying you. And when I say destroying you, it's not just destroying your health, but there are physical effects that come along with that. Memory loss, brain fog, just feeling horrible, extra anxiety even. A lot of people are getting anxiety and they don't know why. Our bodies are not meant to react and respond to these types of frequencies. So I want to give hope that Jesus Christ is our hope, and that we need to be praying every day that he would shield us, that we would be filled up completely with every bit of protection we can get from the Lord. But I also want to encourage people on a local level, let your voice be heard. Communicate with your local politicians, get to know people, spread the information. A lot of people don't realize the power and value of information in this time and day that we're living. Information is one of the most deadliest weapons to the New World Order. They do not want the truth to get out. And so by sharing the truth and by finding out how you can safeguard yourself in your home and for your family, vitamins and supplements are great, but get involved on a local level if you can. Because from what I understand, there are places, there are cities, there are counties that are standing up against 5G. And just like with Missouri giving you the opt-out possibility on smart meters, they know something's going on. But be aware, the deception on the smart meters is great. And as I've already stated, they have got a plan already in place to where they can still use digital smart meters as a one-way device, charge you a little bit extra each month because they're saying it's not a smart meter, but it really is. So even if you have a one-way digital meter, just know that it's a smart meter and it is still putting off extremely high amounts of EMF at different times a day. And that is proven. We have proven it. We've got video of this. We've documented it. So much so that it made me sick on my stomach to even look at the numbers. But be involved on a local level if you can. And listen, pray without ceasing. This is one of those things that is absolutely scary to think about. To think about all the kids. Kids are the ones that are most affected by this. Their immune systems and their bodies, they're not developed. And so kids are the biggest ones we have to worry about. So I just, take action, pray, do your homework, know what you're facing, and figure out the best ways that you can be proactive against these efforts.
So basically, Wi-Fi is just a frequency that they are pushing out, and that frequency is capable of carrying data. So they have figured out how to send this data wirelessly, and there's many industries that are going to tap into that. So you have obviously all your wireless keyboard and mouses will operate at a certain frequency. Smart meters is, for your water, your electric, your gas, those all have the capability of collecting your data and transmitting it wirelessly. So basically that's all Wi-Fi is. It's just a frequency that they use in order to push data back and forth. And like I said, it can be on a number of different devices. So the RF is for radio frequency, and again, that's just basically the same thing as Wi-Fi. It's just it's a frequency that they're using to push that data. EMF is electromagnetic frequency, and an example of EMF would be in your house's electrical wiring. So you want to imagine an invisible bubble around your wires. Right? And so if you are inside of that bubble or really close to that, you are going to be exposed to EMF, which can cause cell damage, nerve damage, who knows what else. It's possibilities of health damage from these frequencies is nobody knows the whole list yet. Let's just put it that way. So there are a few different types of smart meters on the market, right? So they have a PLC, which is a power line communication. That's going to gather your information in the smart meter, and it's going to transmit it back through the power line. They have an AMI, which is an automatic read infrastructure meter. So that one is basically going to collect your data, and it's going to send a Wi-Fi signal out to a collection box on your street. And then that will relay back to the power company so that they don't have to send someone out to read your meter. And when that communicates, that radio frequency signal puts off radiation. It's an RF radiation that comes off of that meter. And they say the safe distance is around 40 feet. So, there's a lot of people that have these on their bedroom walls or on their kitchen wall. Now, I've even seen a relative of mine has one in her basement, and my neighbor also has one in his basement. So that's bringing your exposure up quite a bit by putting that inside the house, so you're going to be exposed to that 24/7 when you're in your home. Now, most of us are going to be exposed to these frequencies and signals when we go out in public. There's not really there's not really a good way to get away from all of that. You still have to get your shopping done. They have free Wi-Fi at the store, things like that. You drive next to cell towers, your friends' houses have it. So your main thing is to try to limit your exposure by cleaning up your home's environment, right? Your house should be a safe place. You should eliminate and reduce EMF, dirty electricity. There's shielding and filtering options for these smart meters. But yeah, basically you also want to go throughout your house and find all your other wireless devices and try to start swapping them out for wired devices. So there's a difference between the Gs, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and the only difference there is a frequency. So they just fine tune the frequency, and that's basically the only difference. Now, the higher it gets, obviously the higher the frequency is going to get. It started off 1G, 2G, now we're sitting between 4 and 5G, but they've already come out with 6G and beyond. They're still testing that and things like that. But so let's just say, for an example, 4G is 1,000-foot wave that comes out of that cell phone tower, and a 5G is going to be a millimeter wave. So it's basically like a dart. Now, the difference is 4G will go through materials such as buildings, trees, cement blocks, things like that. So it can travel far distances, and it can penetrate things. And your device will just pick up that carrier wave and attach or receive data from that wave. Now, the 5G is not going to be all over the place, and it's not going to go as far as the 4G. And basically, it's going to target your device, and it's going to send a beam, a 1 millimeter wave to the device instead of it just being all around you at all times. So we're basically going to be getting hit with a dart of radio frequency. We're basically going to increase everyone's exposure. So the smart meters right now, they're obviously running on the 4G, but second they roll out 5G network and they're capable of adding all of these devices to that 5G spectrum, all they're going to do is update the meters, and the meters will increase their frequency from 4G to 5G. So they're pretty much already ready. All these smart meters have been deployed everywhere, and the second the 5G network is live, these meters will, start transmitting at a 5G frequency. So the 5G is going to tie in with all of our wireless devices. The smart meter is particularly concerning because, again, your house is supposed to be a safe place. At night, you can shut your cell phone off. You can get away from these things, but you might not be able to get away from that meter. So them increasing the frequency from 4G to 5G, that's just going to increase your exposure, right? So I have an issue with that because it's on your house. Now, for example, I bought my first house here and it already had a smart meter on the house. I didn't even think to look at it before I bought the house. It ended up being right on a bedroom wall, which was going to be my daughter's bedroom wall. So I fought and finally got the analog meter back. But, you know, there's everyone has different battles fighting with these companies because they're all different. So some people aren't able to get their meters back. But as far as these meters, whether it's 4G or 5G, I mean, you still need to do something about it. You know, you got to filter and shield it because the frequency's killing people. It's causing cancers, ringing in the ears, all kinds of things. And it affects you, your pets, your plants, everything, anything living. They are able to collect your data using these smart meters. And the type of data that I'm talking about is what type of TV you have, what model TV you have, what kind of computer you have, what time you've used it, how much power you've consumed, what kind of appliances you have. They can even see what kind of light bulbs you have. So they're collecting all of this data. We don't know who they're selling it to. The company, odds are your power company's not looking at it. They're routing it to a third-party company, and they're selling it to them. And we have no idea who this company is or what they're doing with this data. My guess would be is they're chopping it up in pieces and bits and they're selling it to other companies for advertising or whatever, but we have no idea. And they also say right now that this data that they are selling and buying and collecting is worth more than the energy that we use. So the data is now big money. I would argue that if you pay an opt-out fee for the analog meter so that they can have someone come read it, I don't think they're charging you for that. My guess would be is they're charging you a monthly fee, which is how much money that they are probably losing selling your data to that data center, that third-party company. For example, they were charging me $5 a month to come read my analog meter, and then they rewrote their terms of service and they upped it to $60 per month. So I don't know of any city employee that makes $60 an hour, So, and it only takes them 15 minutes to get here, read it, and get back, So they're coming up with a price to, for how much that data is worth to them. The military actually designed 5G for the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. I believe it's called the active denial system. And so they can put this pad, a microwave pad on top of the Humvee. And if a crowd of protesters comes at them or enemy combatants come at them, they can focus this beam on the combatants and they can burn them within seconds so severely that instinct kicks in and they run because it burns. It heats up their skin and their organs and it cooks it from the inside. So this 5G frequency was developed by the military and now it's extending out into the public sector for different reasons. But don't get confused. It's dangerous. It's a weapon. Now I keep reading all over online that the word deployment is a military term and they keep talking about they're deploying 5G. So that should be concerning to the public. But basically, there's a lot of people that are accusing this of being a military installation.
This is straight nastiness. Look at this. There's 3 towers right here. But that ain't all. That ain't all. There's one here. That ain't all. That ain't all. There's one there. That ain't all. That ain't all. There's 3 there. That ain't all. That ain't all. There's one here.
James 4:13-14. Go to now yet that say, today or tomorrow we will go into such a city, and then contine there a year, and buy and sell, and get gain. Whereas ye not know what shall be on tomorrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth away.
FCC, these knuckleheads. The
FCC, which is the Federal Communication Commission, has done absolutely no testing on this. I mean, none whatsoever. They don't know how it's going to affect you, me, the plants, the atmosphere, nothing. They have done nothing. They just, and look, there's independent studies out there. There's tons of independent studies that show that this thing right there, that thing is deadly. That thing will kill you. That thing is a weapon, you know? And I mean, they don't care. They don't care. Do your own research. You'll see it for yourself.
I'll take it back to last year. It kind of all culminated around November. We had just finished a 37-day stint to finish our film Belly of the Beast, and it was after the downtime when we actually noticed the majority of the symptoms at their greatest. Looking back in hindsight, I do remember times where I'd wake up randomly about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, Lord, is this the fourth watch? You want me up praying? But it was on a regular basis, and I did take advantage of that situation by getting just praying, because that's all that you can really do in that situation. But I would take that back to March of last year that I can remember. I can pinpoint the sleeplessness of waking up on a regular basis. When I look at the symptoms, it really started to get out of hand, overwhelming, should I say, because I had. How can I even put this? It's basically like you're a bystander to life. It's kind of like you have tunnel vision, and it feels like you're in this daydream type mentality through life, and even in conversations with people, it feels like you're way back in the back of your head, basically looking out. But fatigue, extreme fatigue. So I started doing some research. What is all this? This is not normal. Lord, I want to be able to do the best that I can for you and for your kingdom. Lord, deliver me from this. And one thing that I have noticed is with any kind of circumstance or trial that you're given, you're either going to let it be a stepping stone or a stumbling block. And so for me personally, it's going to cause me to be completely submitted to the Lord, and to seek Him for guidance and deliverance, and just to be able to make it through a day. And so I start researching this, and I'm praying over it big time, and I'm reaching out to a handful of different friends. And a friend of mine, Joe Horn, wrote a book called Time Bomb last year, and it goes into the processed food industry. And basically all these symptoms that I was having, all these symptoms that I'm getting over right now, it parallels with what processed foods do to the individual. So the mental the fatigue, the brain fog, the tunnel vision, all of these things are tied down to basically your blood-brain barrier is being broken down, and it's allowing your brain to be affected. And God put that in place for a reason. So when that gets messed with, it basically makes us vulnerable to so many different things. So to tie this back into EMF, I was getting with Joe, and he was recommending, your adrenals are burnt. You guys have just been through some pretty tough stuff, finishing the film, stressful time. You need rest, and all that's definitely valid. But what I did find out was that with the EMF and with the processed foods, it's attacking the same thing in the human body, and it produces the same symptoms. So I was eating well, I was eating clean. We've been watching what we eat. I wouldn't call it a diet, but I mean, I don't do McDonald's anymore. That doesn't agree with me. So we're eating clean, and I'm still having these issues. One day, I don't even know what led me to it. I was obviously prayer, but I was looking into the whole smart meter thing, and that's where this whole deal started to unravel. So I got an EMF reader, and after looking outside and seeing that we did have a digital meter on our house, and this meter, just to kind of give perspective on this meter is 4 feet away from where my head rested on my bed. And so all that I have to separate from between me and that meter is 6, 7, maybe 8 inches of wall and insulation. So we go ahead, it's insane. We go ahead and we get the EMF reader. We go outside and we're getting readings up to over 1,000 milligauss. That's pretty intense. To make it even worse, we go inside. We go into my bedroom and we take it and we put it right up next to the wall where the meter was on the opposite side. And we were getting readings over 200, between 200 and 300, depending upon the time of the day. So you put all that into perspective. I'm laying there in bed for, say, let's round it down to 8 hours a day on an average. And then I wake up and then I go to work and I'm sitting in a room that has a 5G router inside of it. So it's putting up the same level of EMF or the same range. I'm basically cooking myself for about 18 to 20 hours a day. and when I'm trying to rest, I'm getting cooked. So you don't ever really fully get into that REM sleep, which we were created to. That was given to us as a gift to be able to help us heal, to help give us rest, and that's being disrupted. Went to my doctor with these symptoms, and she wanted to go ahead and put me on antidepressants. And I told her, no, SSRIs are no good for me. I really appreciate your offer, but I'm just going to try to sit this one, or I'm going to try to push through this. And so that was in December when that happened. I finally ended up going to a holistic doctor, and I had a full blood panel done, a full K panel done. This was last month, and they wanted to. The results came back and showed me that I had my testosterone levels were lower, and it also showed me that my thyroid was not producing the hormones that it should. So I have low levels in the thyroid as well. So I went through a detox. I'm actually just finishing up a liver detox because they say that with any kind of infection or anything that you're dealing with internally, the liver is a great place to start. So I would recommend that for anybody who's in a similar situation. I go back on Wednesday to see how this detox went, and Lord willing, this will be the end all. Lord willing, this will be, boost my thyroid back up and get me back to where I need to be. One thing I failed to mention was with all the issues we were dealing with the power company, and we're not currently in the position to be able to get it moved. So I just went ahead and moved bedrooms. And what I can tell you is that since I've moved my bed away from that cooker that's outside of my bedroom, my former bedroom window, I've been sleeping much better. One other thing that I wanted to mention was that my dog, I was waking up around 3 to 3:30 in the morning on a regular basis, but the other well, it hurts worse because you're looking at your animal. You're looking at another member of the family, and she's about 16 years old now, but she would wake up on a regular basis, anywhere, same deal, between 3 and 4 o'clock, and I would get up, I'd go take her out, I'd bring her back in. She'd jump back up in bed and she'd literally sit there shaking. And I'm sitting here just, like I don't have any children, but like a parent would be to their child when they can't communicate, and you're just like, they're looking at you like, help me. And you could just see the pain and the discomfort that she was feeling. So I'd leave my door open, she'd exit the room and go sleep out in the living room because it was that much of a bother to her. I can sympathize because one of the other symptoms that I was having with the EMF was that it feels like my whole body felt like restless leg syndrome. That was another one, just very agitated and you can't get comfortable. So that was an actual, physical effect that I was having to go through on this. But I am thankful that I've had people like you guys that have been able to give me advice and different pointers on the detox, on the different things to try to stay on top of it. The cards are really stacked against us here. It's basically either taking it into your own hands or cutting your power. And with everything that we do, working on films, and I mean you guys as well, you can't really do that. And so the worst thing about all this is that it's taking it to a biblical perspective on this. The worst thing is that this was put in place as a slow kill, as a soft kill against God's creation. That's basically the bottom line that we're dealing with. And so we have to make sure that we're prayed up and make sure that we're staying in the Word and make sure that we're keeping the Lord first, because He's our defense. And so one of these days, whenever that day comes, Judgment Day, they're going to have to answer for what they've done. So ultimately, it's in the Lord's hands.
There are tons of devices that they have out on the market right now using this wireless technology. Some of it's wearable, a lot of it's in your home. Some of the examples would be wireless keyboard and mouses, wireless speaker systems for your computer, wireless printers, baby monitors, wireless fire alarm systems. And I've even had members of my group come to me and talk to me about having 5G wireless fire alarm systems in their condos or apartments, things like that. So that one's a scary one. There's lots of wireless things out there. People are wearing those Fitbits and Apple Watches and things like that, and that's going to increase your radiation exposure tenfold. There's been people that have gotten burns on their wrist from those wearable devices. So everyone is different, right? Everyone's immune system is going to react a little differently, but whether you feel it or not, you're being exposed and it is doing damage. Now, at nighttime when you go to sleep, your body can go into regeneration mode and repair the damage that was done during the day. But if you do not remove yourself from exposure, your immune system will not go into regeneration mode, and it will wear down your immune system over the long period of time. So it's very critical to limit your exposure, especially while you sleep. The closer you are to these emitting devices, the more your chances for these diseases go up. Okay. And the more cell damage you're going to have right off the bat. And it doesn't take very long. One test that they did, they put 3 people in front of a smart meter, and within 45 seconds, it was causing cell damage to these people. And these people were only 2 feet away from this. So, like I said, whether you feel it or not, it's causing damage to people. They are putting as many antennas in these devices now as they can possibly cram in there. It started off with 1, maybe 2 antennas, incoming and outgoing traffic, data, things like that. But the new phones they're talking about up to 16 antennas for 1 phone. And some of the wireless routers that I've seen lately, they're doing the same thing. They've got a bunch of antennas on them. And so they're just trying to increase connectivity, right? We all want more videos, more data, more everything simultaneously, right? We want to be able to download a video while we're having a phone call, right? So that's why they are, they're advertising towards all these needs that we have, right? But all they're doing is increasing our exposure, which is going to double cancer rates. So limiting exposure is key. Well, I feel like, they're fabricating needs for this industry. They come out and they tell us, oh, well, you need this and you need that and you need faster data and faster downloads. And, do we really need all that? We can still get that from a wired PC. You just can't do it in the car when you're at the grocery store. All right. So they're creating a path for us to say, ooh, give me this, and they're advertising the good benefits of it, but they are doing zero testing. They're putting zero money towards testing, you know, and we don't know anything about 5G yet, right? So there's been clothing lines they're being launched. There's protection devices that will work for this 4G because it's been around for a while. Now with the 5G, I get asked all the time, almost every day, because I run that group on Facebook that talks about all of these topics, you know. We call it the dangers of smart technology and geoengineering. But they ask me all the time, what can I do to stop 5G? And honestly, I don't know yet, you know, because it hasn't been third party tested by very many people, you know, and there's been very few studies that have come out on it, you know, and so we don't know exactly what it's going to do. We don't know exactly how to protect ourselves from 5G yet, because they haven't fully rolled out the system nation or worldwide yet. So it's kind of just a shot in the dark at the moment. So when I first started this journey, looking into all these different exposures and dangers, I stumbled upon some of the health problems that I was having were being caused by these exposures. So everyone's got a bed that presses right up against the wall, and your electrical wiring is going to run from outlet to outlet all the way around your house. So it's going to be in your walls, in your floors, in your ceilings, it's everywhere. Now, again, your bed is up against the wall. You are inside of that invisible bubble going around your electrical wiring. Now, when you're sleeping, your head is in that EMF field and it's causing issues, right? So I was having ringing in my ears. I would wake up in the middle of the night covered in sweat. That was the worst one. I hated that one. But yeah, so once I got this filter installed, it reduces the EMF and the dirty electricity down below a safe level, and all of these symptoms started going away. And that's how I knew I was onto something. So we started a group on Facebook. I have another local friend here that goes around with me and does tests and makes videos, things like that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people that are having issues, and they're minor issues, and they're not putting two and two together, but you know, it's definitely real. They, like I was mentioning before, they did a study where they put 3 individuals in front of the smart meter at 2 feet away, and they put them there for 2 minutes at 1 foot away, and these 3 individuals had different results, but similar results. So the first person and the second person were both there for 2 minutes, 1 foot away, and it caused cell damage. The top is the cells before, and the bottom is the cells after. And as you can see, they are looking like a bottle cap instead of being round. And in the third person, they were only there for 45 seconds. This person developed a nosebleed and had to be pulled away from the smart meter after 45 seconds. But you can see that the cells are stacking. They call this cell stacking. So that's at 2 minutes of exposure. You know, I mean, imagine being there all day or sleeping next to it for 6 to 8 hours.
Right.
You know, and like I said, when you're sleeping, you're supposed to be regenerating. Your immune system's supposed to be helping you repair damage. And you're not going to go into regeneration mode if you're being exposed to these. There are a lot of health issues that they are claiming that these frequencies cause. Alzheimer's, autism, cancers, ringing in the ears, which is tinnitus, you name it. I mean, the list is endless. I mean, it's a huge list of people coming out with different symptoms.
Confusion, short-term memory loss, inability to focus, brain fog, difficulty concentrating, headache, migraine, vision disruption, eye pain, cataracts, head or chest pressure, allergies, difficulty breathing, respiratory problems, slow reaction time, sleep disruption, insomnia, night sweats, nightmares, dizziness, disorientation, balance problems, agitation, anxiety, depression, suicide, tension, irritability, tremors, nervousness, seizures, vertigo, nausea, flu-like symptoms, digestive difficulty, nosebleeds, hair loss, rapid aging, skin problems, skin irritation, white noise, ringing or buzzing in ears, ear pain, tendinitis, bedwetting, urinary problems, behavior problems in children, pets get jumpy, mood disorders, lethargy, exhaustion, chronic fatigue, lost productivity, loss of employment, unusual family conflict, disintegrating relationships, disturbed brain-blood barriers, electronic harassment, stalking, mind control, controlling thoughts, voice to skull, violent behavior, autism, ADHD, weakened immune system, physical weakness or pain, high blood pressure, leg cramps, stiff neck or back, cell death, changes in genetic makeup, DNA breakage. EMF causes mercury dental filling vapor to leak, causing organ and brain damage, psoriasis, autoimmune disease, lupus, damages mitochondria, free radical damage, worsening existing poor health, demineralization of cells or tissues, impotence, infertility, birth defects, lifespan decrease, heart attack, pacemaker defibrillation, circulation problems, joint difficulty, muscle pain, fibromyalgia, dementia, personality changes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or ALS, childhood cancers increase, brain tumors, rare deadly brain gliomas, leukemia, cancer, diabetes, heat beam on human that mimics a high fever, rhinitis, asthma, allergies such as hay fever, food allergy, atopic dermatitis, itching and chapped skin on the trunk, rheumatism, benign uterine fibroid tumors, bone loss, osteoporosis, dehydration, and kidney damage.
One thing I do want to say is in May 2011, the World Health Organization classified RF radiation as a Class 2B cancer-causing carcinogen in the same category as DDT, lead, and chloroform. So there are people out there that know that this is dangerous, it's causing cancers, this and that, but there's too much money behind it. They're ramming it through anyway. There's even been reports of certain cities trying to stop this, let's just say they tried to stop a cell phone tower from getting installed in their neighborhood. The city then turns around and gets sued. So they have figured out a way just to not give us an option, and they're ramming this everywhere. I wanted to share with you that microwaves will penetrate a child's brain much deeper than it will in adults because their bone is thinner. And, like I said, all these devices use the same frequencies basically. So it's a cell phone study, but just like it says here, smart meters use the same frequency, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, they're going to use the same frequency. So our children are being exposed much more than we are. So definitely limiting exposure for the kids is key. So these frequencies are going to affect animals just like they affect us. Our body systems are a little bit different, right? But for the most part, they're very, very similar, and they're going to have the same effects, right? They're going to have the same issues, same problems. They're going to get cell damage, things like that, and they can't tell us, So exposure is just as real for animals as it is with us. There's people all over the world posting in my group every day, showing pictures of trees and bushes dying all around next to these smart meters and 5G cells. Any Wi-Fi boxes. I mean, it's killing shrubs, trees, bushes, everything, and they've also put articles online where they did a test in, I believe it was the Netherlands, and thousands of birds dropped dead out of the sky, and they had to hire crews to come in and clean up the birds. They're killing bees, lots of things. So, for example, we all know that we need the bees to eat, right? Well, the bee navigates with electromagnetism in their brain. And when they get close enough to these signals, they either fly in circles and get confused or they die. So we've seen insect populations and bee populations go way down the more these wireless towers start popping up everywhere. So the industry is using child slave labor to unearth a lot of these materials and minerals that are used in the industry, and they're not telling anyone. You know, there's a few different countries out there, and I don't have the names of the countries right off the top of my head, but they're forcing these children at gunpoint to remove these minerals, and then they're just shipping them over to another country that's using slave labor, like China, to manufacture and put it all together. You know, so I mean, pretty much the whole process is done by slave labor. You know, and they could source these from better places, you know, where they treat people better, give people a living wage, thing like that. But when they do that, they have to increase the price, and it affects their bottom line. And so they would just rather buy it from slave labor. So I mean, that's one big thing that we need to start doing more to expose. You know, we spend a lot of time on the dangers and stuff like that, but you know, that's a great point that they are definitely using slave labor, and children's slave labor at that. You know, these are young children that are out there working all day, digging these materials up and handing them over. I forgot to mention, in certain areas, they are using militias to force these children to dig all of this stuff out. And the militias are the ones that make the money when they turn around and sell the stuff. You know, these kids aren't seeing any of it. I absolutely think it's a depopulation method. Now, I also believe that they're using, you know, a lot of this technology for a number of different reasons. But definitely depopulation. I mean, like I said, the World Health Organization has known since 2011 that all of this is classified in the same category as DDT, lead, and chloroform. So them knowing all of this, you know the industry knows this. The people putting up these towers, they know this. The people running the shop, or making all the calls and decisions, they know all of this. They know the dangers. In my group, I even put up disclosures that these companies give their investors. I have one on all these companies: AT&T, Verizon, Microsoft. Any of these companies that have wireless devices, they don't tell the public this, but they have to tell their investors. And it says right on these disclosures that sometime in the near future that these companies could face massive amounts of litigation due to the wireless effects of its customers. So they're just telling their investors right out front, look, we're doing good right now, but when people catch on, we might start seeing lawsuits. And, by law, they have to tell their investors this. So, I mean, like I said, I have this document on several different wireless companies, but they straight out admit that we could face lawsuits here pretty soon because of the effects of our wireless technology doing damage.
10:10. The thief cometh not but to steal and to kill and destroy. I am come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly.
Believe it or not, there are some solutions. There just might be hope. Even through the midst of it all, of the health issues that we may experience through this situation, there just still might be an avenue of hope. If we all can come together as a people, not as an individual or a group or a gender, but come together as people, we might just be able to get past this situation that we can't stop. So there might be things that we can eat, there might be things that we can use or wear to help protect us from the EMF, the radiation, and the different frequency levels that we may experience. Let's take the time to find out just what some of those solutions might be.
There are solutions to this. The way they carry this data through the lines is called dirty electricity, or EMI, or line noise. There's a lot of different names for it, but dirty electricity is the most common. And basically what they do is they send energy, pulsed energy, through your electrical wiring. And that pulsed energy is, the data is going to attach right into that pulsed energy, and that pulsed energy will push that data back to them. So that's the way they're able to collect all of your data. They need dirty electricity running through your electrical wiring in order to connect with these plugged in devices and collect data and bring it back to the meter. So I can show you a filter that I am a distributor for a company. It's called a Power Perfect box. And this thing just simply plugs in right by your breaker panel. And there's 3 wires. 2 wires attached to a 15 amp double pole breaker. And 1 wire goes to the ground or the neutral spot on the breaker panel. And it's that simple. Once you hook this filter up, it's going to be a whole house surge protector. It's going to eliminate the EMF and the dirty electricity, which will stop them from being able to collect that data because they will no longer be able to push it. And it also does line conditioning, voltage regulation, and phase correction. So there's a number of problems that the power company is delivering to us. This filter takes care of all of that. We also have a smart meter shield. Now this is just aluminum or steel screen, but the hole sizes in it is really, really fine. So it's not like the screen on your windows of your house, but it's a little bit finer. And that's all it is. This will slip right over your smart meter, and it's going to eliminate 98% of that RF radiation when the meter communicates back to the power company. So shielding and filtering, these are the 2 things you need to do. And once you have both of these done, you don't really have a whole lot to worry about from the smart meter. Now, in my instance, I'm going to go a step farther. I'm going to pay an electrician to remove the smart meter off the house, plant it on a pole way out in the backyard, and then I'll let them put the smart meter on. I'll put the shield on there, put the filter on, and I don't have anything to worry about. I get this question a lot in my group. Will the radiation go backwards into the house after you put the shield on? Now, 99.9% of the time, the box that the meter is going to be housed in is going to be metal. Now, all metal is going to block or reflect RF radiation. So the radiation is not able to come directly backwards into the house because the box is metal. Now, when you put this over your smart meter, this net is going to come right up to the metal on the box. It's going to completely contain that meter. So there's not going to be any radiation that's going to be allowed to get out of there. It's going to eliminate all that. So the RF radiation is going to be emitted from the glass portion of that smart meter in all directions at all times. So once you cover it, it's all concealed in that box. Now, another question I get is it going to heat up and cause a fire once all that radiation's trapped in there? Radio frequency doesn't cause heat. So That's not an issue. That's a misconception that a lot of people have. A lot of people have posted in my group that they have covered their meter completely with tinfoil. And yeah, that will stop that radio frequency in its tracks. It'll stop it, but that's going to completely stop the signal from getting back to the power company. So there have been people that have been charged with theft and tampering of a utility because of this. So when I see it in the group, I tell them right away, pull that aluminum foil off of there, so that they don't show up and arrest you, because once they can't get that signal, they can't bill you and they don't know how much power you've used, right? So it's very important that you get the right mesh net size. And like I said, again, it's going to be really, really fine. I don't know if you can see the holes in there, but it's really fine. So you need a really fine net. Now this will stop 98%, and the 2% that gets out is enough for the power company to get the signal. So that's very important. Make sure you don't cover it with aluminum foil. I used to sit right here at my desk, and I had a Wi-Fi router right here in front of me all day, all night, never shut it off. I didn't know, and I had all kinds of health problems, and there was no way I was going to make a connection until I got the right piece of information, but I used to have ringing in my ears, headaches, fatigue, problems concentrating. My son is also somewhat electromagnetic sensitive like I am. Not quite as bad, but he can feel certain things too, ringing in his ears, things like that. But once I started removing all these Wi-Fi devices and wireless devices and switching over to wired everything, wired routers, wired keyboards, mouses, you think, you name it, I went through the whole house. Kids' Xboxes, PlayStations, they have Wi-Fi controllers. They put them right there in their laps when they're playing, and your reproductive organs absorb radiation 80% more than anywhere on your body. So they're doing reproductive harm at a really young age, and there's a simple solution. You just buy them a corded controller. If you need an extension cord, they sell USB extension cords. So that's going to eliminate the exposure right there off of their reproductive organs. So that one's a critical one. A lot of families out there have kids with gaming systems, and you have to take steps to protect them. So the addiction level to these wireless devices has gone through the roof, obviously. Everywhere you go, you see children staring at a cell phone or a tablet, or you name it. They're just stuck to these wireless devices, and it's getting out of control. I posted a picture in my group of someone that rented a blow-up bounce house for a kid's birthday party, and there was 5 kids sitting on that bounce house staring at cell phones or tablets. They weren't even jumping and playing and having fun. So it boils down to better parenting. We need to not use our devices as a babysitter, things like that. But get our kids back outside and active and limit their exposure to these devices. The first thing I would recommend everyone doing, because we are all loaded with heavy metals, whether you get it from your diet, whether you get it from the chemicals that are being sprayed all around us through geoengineering and things like that, or whether you're getting it through a vaccination. Vaccines are loaded with heavy metals. Now, if you have heavy metals in your body, you attract EMF. You become essentially an antenna. So I recommend everyone doing, thorough detoxes, but you got to do it the right way. You have to do tons of research. You don't just jump out there and try a heavy metal detox, because it can be dangerous if you don't do it right. So when you start detoxing all these heavy metals out, there's several different ways that you can do it. They have detox kits out there on the market. They have all natural detoxes that you can do, such as cilantro. Cilantro is a binder, so it will bind the heavy metals and it'll remove them from your system. There's things that you can do to protect yourself from free radical damage from EMFs, things like Wi-Fi, which is rosemary tea. It's that simple, a little bit of rosemary in the tea, you drink that in the morning, and that's going to protect you and your cells from this damage. So that's a good one. There's clothing lines being developed right now that are going to protect from these frequencies. So there's really a lot of things that you can do. Now going back to the vaccine, a lot of people that get vaccinated end up with gene mutations. Now this isn't something that they talk about a lot, but if you have a gene mutation, which a lot of people that get vaccines do, they have a MTHFR gene mutation. Now, if you have this specific mutation, this is going to block your detox pathways. Now, I believe women have 5 and males have 7. Don't quote me on that. I could be a little off on those numbers, but each one of these pathways is blocked because of this gene mutation. So it's very important to find out if you have these blockages and to do your best to clear them out before you start detoxing the heavy metals, because you don't want those heavy metals to be pulled out of your tissues, be circulating in your system, and then not be able to be detoxed out of a pathway, and then your body reabsorbs that. So it can be very tricky, maybe talk to your doctor, look into properly doing this, because like I said, it can be dangerous. For example, cilantro. If you take a little bit of cilantro and it binds those heavy metals and it starts removing it from your system, if you don't redose on cilantro when you're supposed to, that cilantro will wear off and it'll let go of those metals and they will recirculate through your system. And it can cause issues all over again, like you got a vaccination yesterday, right? So it's very critical that you do your research and you know how to properly do these detoxes and don't just go jump on it, because you can hurt yourself. So I myself have tried a detox kit that I purchased online, and basically it's a zeolite. And the kind that, there's 2 different kinds on the market, maybe even more, but the kind that I use is all natural. It's a zeolite. It comes from volcanic rock and ash. And basically a zeolite, you would think of it as like a hollow cage that's positively charged, and the metals will be negatively charged, or vice versa. I get it mixed up. But basically that zeolite will get into your system and it'll attract that metal inside that cage, and it'll protect it while it's being removed from your system. So you don't have to worry about the binder life running out and it let going of that metal into your system again. So I used a detox kit from a website, but there's tons of different ways out there, and a lot of them do work, some a little faster than others, some more efficient than others, but the key is to start removing it. Pendant that I wear, and there are tons of them on the market, and I can't tell you, if they all work or if they, if they're all equally made, I don't know. But this particular one that me and my family wear, this one cost me about $150. It's stainless steel. It's got wound up copper on the inside, and this, faces you. And basically this will protect against cell damage from exposures to Wi-Fi when you're out and about. The company that I bought this one from, they did third-party blood testing before and after exposure. So you can't put this on and then test yourself with a meter to see if it works, right? So a lot of people will say, oh, it's a scam, but it's not. You can do a blood test before and after to see that it's protecting your cells from damage. So yeah, there are devices out there. Some work, some don't. Some are a scam. Some might work better than others. I don't have all those answers, but solutions do exist. Anyone that wants to get in touch with me, whether you have questions about smart meter removal, limiting exposure, shielding and filtering devices, you can come find me at my Facebook group, and the name of that is called The Dangers of Smart Technology /Geoengineering. You can also find me at my personal Facebook page, send me a message. whatever's easiest for you. I also have a YouTube channel under my name, Brandon Simmons, and I do post a lot of videos there, so you can get in touch with me either one of those methods.
John 8:32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
I hope you enjoyed what you saw in the documentary. If you have any questions, any doubt that what we're saying is not correct, you need to check this out.
This tower is in a high school in Maryland. Not going to say what high school it is. Take a look at these readings. You know, it's interesting how we've been to a lot of different places, and what I've noticed is that there's not a lot of towers in very, I guess you would call it, wealthy neighborhoods. The demographics of where these cell towers are placed are uniquely done, because there's a lot of towers in public places, but they're more in urban places than they are in places that have wealth. And we've been into different communities where we've seen them have no cell phone towers at all, and barely any small cells.
And as you can see, look at here, we're in a wealthy neighborhood. There's no receivers, no transmitters. Heck, there's no even power lines. There's no collection boxes, what we call buckets. There's no towers for miles. You can't see in any direction. There's no receivers on the light fixtures and antennas. In my neighborhood, I can look out the door from right to left and see several towers in all directions. But here, I can look for 5 or 10 miles and see nothing but trees, nothing but houses everywhere. It seems to me that these towers are maybe not necessary to have so many in one general area if you don't need any in this area like this. It seems to me like there's something more to these towers than what is being told to the public.
So what are they in a hurry to connect us to?